Hi, this is Dan Jurgens, and you are listening to the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast.
Greetings, Cap fans. It is episode 154 of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Rick Verbanis, and as always, I'm joined by the best gosh darn co-host out there. That is Mr. Bob Lucius. Oh, Bob. Money's tight, nothing free. Won't somebody come and rescue me? I am stranded, caught in the crossfire. Yeah, that's right. You got it. You nailed it. Who sings that song?
I have no idea. I can't recall.
It was Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Stevie Ray Vaughan. All right.
Bless his soul. Yeah, that was the song Crossfire that came out in 1989. That's a great song. He was one amazing blues guitarist and good vocalist too. He had some great songs like, If the House is a Rockin', Don't Come a Knockin'.
Yeah.
He had some really good songs, yeah. But Crossfire is definitely up there. And everybody, do yourself a favor. If you don't know the song Crossfire by Stevie Ray Vaughan, look it up. It is a really rocking song.
All right. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that tonight, Rick.
Okay. But how did you know? I mean, how'd you, did that just,
Rick, because as you know,
you listen to Bob FM? Are you about to go into Bob FM?
No, as you know, I like to do my homework for these shows. So
it ties into the show.
Yes, of course.
Oh,
it does. Yeah,
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
How does it tie into the show, Bob?
Well, as you know, Rick, tonight we're going to be diving into issue 317 of Captain America, and one of the, as they like to call it in Marvel fandom, antagonists is none other than Crossfire.
That's right. It is. Yeah. So I thought it was an appropriate greeting to you. And also the lyrics I picked out, I don't know if you noticed the lyrics. Money's tight, nothing's free. Won't somebody come and rescue me?
Nice. That's
right?
Nice. That's a very subtle call out to the story we're about to get into.
Yeah. Well, you know me, man. I'm very subtle.
Nice. Oh, yeah, you are. Nothing but. Yes.
How you doing, Bob? How's your week been going?
I'm doing all right, Rick. I'm doing pretty good. We just dodged a hurricane down here. It's heading north. So I got my power. I got my fridge working. I'm going to have coffee tomorrow morning. I mean, things are pretty good.
Well, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. What about you? What's going on up there?
Woo! Well, you know what? I think this is episode 154. We had a kind of shuffle some things around because speaking of the hurricane, our guest that we were going to be talking to tonight had I guess they were given a notice to evacuate their area in Florida. So we have to reschedule our conversation with that person. So we're doing the next episode, which is Captain America 317 in episode 154. I think so. I hope so. I hope we still get to talk to our guest, because if not, this will become episode 153. And if you're not confused yet, just think of how we are, because we record these things like weeks in advance.
Right.
In fact, today is my daughter's birthday. She turned 17 today. And I know what you're thinking, listeners. What the hell are you doing recording a podcast? Well, because she's with her mom. She's in her friends. She's not with me. I will be seeing her tomorrow. We're going to be celebrating her birthday, and we're taking out for dinner the next night. So anyway, so it was a big day for her today because she got her driver's license.
That's a big deal.
You remember getting yours?
I don't actually.
No,
I was a late bloomer when it came to my driver's license. I really wasn't all that into it. mostly because the ladies came and picked me up. But I didn't really have a need for one. And then when I got one, finally, it's in retrospect, I wish I hadn't, because I almost killed myself so many times. So I'm a little bit leery. You know, my son's 13. I'm a little bit, he's like, I want to have my license when I'm 15 and a half, you know, like it's ridiculously low down here in Florida. And so I'm like, oh my God, you know, so, but I'm sure, you know, I'm sure you're a sweet girl. Got a nice, safe car. She's responsible, takes after her dad. It's not going to be an issue.
Let's hope. Let's hope.
Yeah.
Because I think I mentioned before in this podcast, right? Like I was looking for a car for her and couldn't find one. So I was like, Daddy's getting a car.
And
so
a
I bought
GPS
myself
tracker.
a used car.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
He's getting my old car. And trust me, I have considered that.
Yeah, I would actually. I don't, there's no shame in that. It's just for safety, you know, not to necessarily track a kid, but you know, you want to make sure they're safe. They're not like, you know, in trouble.
Right.
So.
Yep. They make sure they are where they say they are.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. If they're broke down something, their phone's not charged, you know, you want to make sure you can track them.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll go with that one.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So it's been a big day, you know, with that. Also I went to an art show.
Oh yes.
On Sunday, and I got myself a piece of art. I end up trading 3 of my pieces plus some cash to get this bigger piece.
Wow. That's a major haul then.
Yeah. I got rid of a John Byrne panel page. It didn't have cap on. It was just a, you know, just a minor page. And then 2 Kieran Dwyer pages. So
yeah.
And I end up getting a George Perez JLA Avengers #1 page.
Nice.
I know. I've been wanting one of these. I don't have anything published by George Perez, and really wanted to get something. And this is a really cool page because it has all the Avengers on it. It has Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Hawkeye, Vision, Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver. They're all on this page, and you know, Cap's front and center giving orders. And so, and they're in Metropolis, which is kind of cool. They just beat some bank robbers, and then they're being inundated by autograph seekers. So it's a really cool page. So I was lucky to pick that up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations. All right.
And I know this is even bigger news for you, Bob.
Ooh, yeah.
But right after the art show, I hosted my fantasy football draft because I'm the commissioner.
Oh yeah,
Commissioner
about us.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I kicked butt in my fantasy football draft. There was 3 different platforms that I ran it by, and every single one of them gave me an A+ best draft of the group. I have, as long as I manage my team, I have a 99% chance of making the playoffs.
Wow.
According to all this. So listen, all
that training paid off, man.
It really did.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how much time I sat and did mock drafts.
Yeah.
And like, I'm in a keeper league, so it's kind of fun because, you know, there's a lot of strategy involved and you're trying to figure this out. And I know, I feel like, all right, it's like the Monty Python. Get on with it. Sorry, people. But Bob asked how I was doing.
Yeah.
And these are some exciting things that I just did.
Well, and from our time dilation perspective, because again, it's very confusing. We're recording tonight is the 29th of August. Tomorrow, what episode comes out, Rick?
That would be our fantasy Captain America draft.
So which was a lot of fun to record and prep for, and I hope the folks in the Facebook group, I hope the folks who listen to the podcast enjoy it as much as we did putting it together.
Yeah. This episode, I think, what we're recording right now comes out September 20th. So it'll be 3 weeks later. But I did put in a poll. I'm putting a poll in this Saturday, which would have been whatever, 2.5 weeks ago. So
we'll know the results by now.
I know.
Look them up.
You know what? I also want to encourage people in who's listening on Spotify. There are ways for you to leave comments on Spotify as well, because I know we're always asking people to do, go on Apple, because half our listeners listen on Apple, and to go on there and leave a 5-star review and so on, and we really appreciate people who do that. But Spotify has got some cool things too. In fact, I put a poll on Spotify of which team would you rather vote for, Rick or Bob's team. So I wonder if anybody did that. We'll see.
Interesting.
So speaking of birthdays, Bob, also this week, we've got a couple birthdays for some comic book artists. Paul Ryan, his birthday is, or would have been, September 23rd. Paul, he didn't do Captain America comics, but he did do Captain America in the Avengers. He was an artist for a longtime artist for the Avengers for 3 years in the late 80s, early 90s. And so he certainly had drew Captain America plenty of times. And then also a birthday this week is Bob Layton. Birthday's on September 25th. So happy birthday to Bob. You may recall he was the inker for Dan Jurgens in volume 3. So from issues 38 to, I want to say 50, the end of volume 3. So 2001 and 2002, we had was when he was on the book. And we actually did have Dan Jurgens on the show. If anybody wants to check that out, that was which episode, Bob? It's a real easy one, Bob. There's a special anniversary show, and Dan Jurgens was on.
100?
Yes.
Yes.
Nicely done, Bob.
Yeah.
All right. Nicely done.
All right. That was a great episode too, by the way. He really warmed up as that interview went along. So,
well, that's because you're just a really warm and likable guy.
I think I bring out the best in people.
You really do.
Yeah.
All right. So should we get to the comic?
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's why we're here, right? It had a cover date of May of 1986. So we're heading back to the mid 80s.
I wish.
Part of me would want to go only with a guarantee that I wouldn't stay there and I could come back.
Yeah, I know. Just a week. It could be nice.
Yeah, sure.
Weeks, I could do that.
Yeah. Writer Mark Gruenwald, middle of his really long run. Penciler was Paul Neary. Now, I say penciler, but really it was more of breakdowns. He, at this point, now Paul Neary, he had been on the Cap book, right, since issue 292. And he had a really nice run. He did 292 to 329, and then he finished with 331. So that was, from 1984 to 1987. So, it was a really nice run. And then he, and I say it's breakdowns because remember when we had John Beatty on the show, and he was talking about the difference between working with Mike Zack and working with Paul Neary. And he talked about how with Mike, Mike did the pencils, John did the inks. With Paul, he did the layouts, and then John did the finishes. So it was a lot more of John's art in this than say when he was working with Mike Zack. But it's an interesting conversation to learn about the differences between breakdowns, finishes, inking, and so on. When we talked to John Beatty in episode 43. So if you haven't listened to that one, make sure you check that out.
I was going to say there's also a great story about Howard Johnson.
That's true. That's true.
A long story, but it's a good story.
Yeah. Anchor on today's issue is Dennis Janke. I think that's how you pronounce it. Colorist Ken Fedunowitz, letterer Deanna Albers, and editor Mike Carlin. And the title to today's issue. Story is
What is the title? I don't know.
okay. When we open it up, you can. You don't know?
Is it Death Throes?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right.
Right?
Is it written anywhere?
Um.
I don't think it's written
Well,
anywhere in the book.
No.
No.
Uh.
I mean, it's on Marvel Fandom.
Yeah, it's on Marvel Fandom as Death Throes.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Just three. So what? Hey, Bob. Tell me about the copywriter, the one who did the Xeroxing. What was their name?
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Who got the lunches?
hey, Bob. Do you want me to read the solicitation for this one?
I sure would, Rick.
All right. This is the extent of the solicitation. What's Cap doing with Hawkeye's weapons? And what is Hawkeye doing with Cap's shield?
Someone got lazy on that issue.
Yeah, pretty much. I guess they basically they didn't bother reading this, the synopsis or whatever from the writer. They just looked at the cover and were like, I got a question.
There you go.
Bob, you want to, speaking of the cover, do you want to take the listeners through what we're looking at here?
Yeah, it's a great cover, Rick. It's one I think that most Cap fans who are at least bit familiar with Volume 1 of Captain America have seen and remember. Right? I mean, we see a lot of covers, but this one is one of those covers that I think our capability of recall really latches onto. So we've got Cap in the foreground with Hawkeye's bow and arrow, and he's standing there and he's drawing the bowstring with the arrow already slotted, right? And behind him we see Hawkeye, who's sort of crouched over a little bit, and he's got Cap's shield, and it's a yellow background, so the two figures stand out really crisply, and Cap is saying to Hawkeye, well, here's another fine mess you've gotten us into, Hawkeye.
And what is that from?
Well, I mean, it's a reference, as you know, Rick, because we're both aficionados of comedy. Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy quote. Oliver Hardy in specific, back in the Laurel and Hardy films. That was a catchphrase of Oliver Hardy, although it's a little bit inaccurate. That's not exactly what he used to say, but it's what most of us remember him saying.
So you beat me to it. I actually did my research on this as well, and it's not, well, here's another fine mess you've gotten us into. What is it, Bob?
It's here's another nice mess you've gotten us into.
Yeah. What do they call that when you misremember things like that?
I don't know, but you're going to tell me.
With you.
You're going to tell me because we've gone over this before.
It's like the Mandela effect, right?
Is it the Mandela?
Yeah.
What's he got to do with it?
It was when everybody thought Mandela was died, had passed, and but he was actually alive. But everybody had agreed. No, he passed. So it's a phenomenon where a large segment of the population misremembers a significant event or shares a memory of an event that did not actually occur.
Interesting. Does it also encapsulate or cover things that we think people say, but they never actually said?
No, because it's not just like you singularly misremembering something. It's when a group of people all agree that it happened this way. Yeah.
Because I was thinking of Blinded by the Light. We all.
Oh, you're talking about Wrapped Up Like a Douche?
Yeah, that one. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a little different.
Oh, that's different. Okay.
Yeah. There was back in the 90s, there was a guy who wrote a book called something like Misheard Lyrics. And the whole book is nothing but that.
I would love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now this is before the internet, so you could write a book and sell a book like that.
Right. I love TikTok videos, YouTube videos that show K-pop bands and it sounds, they're singing in Korean, but it sounds like they're singing in English, and like it's just really funny. Like some of the things it sounds like they're singing, like about tuna fish sandwiches and stuff like
Right,
that.
right,
It's,
right. Yeah.
great stuff. Great stuff. I can watch that stuff all day
Yeah.
if I didn't have to work.
Don't think, come on, Bob, admit it. You probably do that while you're at work anyway.
Yeah, probably do. It's good to be the boss.
Yeah. All right. So that was the solicitation, and that was the cover. Speaking of the cover, Bob, I don't think I mentioned this before, but I know the owner of the original art of this cover.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. His name is Alberto Gonzalez, and he's actually agreed to be a guest on the show at some point. Because I have this idea. I want to bring on Captain America fans who collect Captain America art. Because I'm interested in it, and I think there's some others out there interested in it too. And what better way than to talk about art than an audio podcast?
All right. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
So look for that in the coming weeks. We haven't really come up with a title for it yet. I know. I think we were. It was like art captions, art captured, art captivated. I don't know. We had a couple things we were throwing back and forth.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, you sent a bunch of ideas, and then I hadn't heard about it, so I didn't know when we had this thing planned. But yeah, we got to get moving on it.
We'll have them on next month.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's see. Yeah, probably in October. Yeah, we'll do that. All right. Let's get back to the comic, Bob. Why do you keep doing this? We're never going to get done if you keep doing this.
It's interesting. I wonder, it looks as if Hawkeye and Cap get their boots manufactured at the same bootery.
Ah, yeah, the little pirate buccaneer boots.
The buccaneer boots.
Yeah. Indeed. Plus the pants, right? The pants look like they could be the same.
Right. Yeah.
And the mask has the same amount of space over their mouth and nose and eyes holes, right?
True.
Yeah, and he's got an H and he's got an A on the forehead.
Just like some mass production going on here in the superhero uniform factory.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty cool. All right, so let's get to the comic. So we open up to a splash page, and it is a man in handcuffs behind his back being walked down a pathway, being escorted by a police officer on either side of him. And there are other policemen there that are holding back the crowd, including a bunch of people there, news reporters with their cameras and microphones, and they want to interview this perpetrator who is being escorted by the police to the courthouse. Could I have a word with the accused, officer? After the trial, lady. And the crowd's yelling at him. Michelle March at the steps of the New York County Courthouse, where William Cross, also known as Crossfire, is going to be tried today for conspiracy, attempted murder, and arms smuggling. And then, part of the publicity surrounding the trial stems from the fact that two West Coast Avengers, Hawkeye and Mockingbird, have been subpoenaed to testify. Now, Bob, back in this time period, there was a West Coast Avengers, and they had their own comic series. You want to maybe explain that to those who are not familiar?
No, I didn't read them.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Avengers, West Coast, had a bunch of people. Yeah. John Walker was on the team for a while. Yeah.
Not at this point, no.
No, not this point, but
no. This is Captain America 317. We don't have John Walker introduced yet in the Captain America
but he
series.
served on West Coast Avengers at some point.
Oh, that's amazing, Bob.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to help out.
Mm.
Anything I can do to help, Rick.
All right, so let me back it up a little bit here. Just give people a little bit of backstory. So Mark Gruenwald had done a Hawkeye miniseries.
In fact, this issue is a continuation from Hawkeye 4.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
So the Hawkeye miniseries came out. It was only 4 issues, and it came out in 1983. It was both written and drawn by Mark Gruenwald. A lot of people don't know that, but Mark Gruenwald was a pretty decent comic book artist too. And then, of course, he gave that up to be writing and editing, because I guess you got to know your strengths and so on. But yeah, he did this 4-issue miniseries back in the fall of 1983. So this is just a few years later, but in comic time, probably just a few months later. So in the foreground of this page, we see 2 people in the crowd wearing dark blue trench coats and posing as the press. You know how I know that, Bob?
How, Rick?
He's wearing a fedora that has something that says press in the hat. Remember back in the day that they used to do that?
Right. Yeah. You had to have your press card.
Yeah. And they would wear it in their hat.
Yeah. It's also the fact that she's holding 2 bombs and he's holding a weapon as well. Sort of gives them away.
Well, I was talking about the disguise, Bob.
Oh, the disguises. Yeah.
Yeah. But he has an intercom on. And so he is a black gentleman with a red and yellow costume underneath, and he's pulling out a ring, probably about the size of a face, right? And then she's pulling out, looks like I would call them grenades, but they don't look like grenades. They look like little like those old school time bombs, or not time bombs, but they were like black bombs with a little fuse
right.
at the thing, right? And,
she's got a couple of lovely bombs.
Yeah, she's holding them really close.
Yep.
So he says, 20 feet away, everyone's in position. I'll give the signal. Right. So we go to turn the page, and Bob, it is a double page splash. So double page splash, meaning that it takes up 2 pages, and it's a half page splash. So the top portion is a horizontal image that goes across pages 2 and 3, and then underneath on the 2 pages, there's a total of 6 panels, 3 on each side. So the reason they do that is to show that on this top thing, it shows all the different people who are in disguise, and there's like 5 of them that are attacking the police, and then they're throwing smoke bombs and basically rescuing Crossfire.
And there's the title, Rick.
It is.
There it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
If it was a snake, Bob, it would have bit you.
They really wanted to like lure you into the book before they told you the title.
So. Yeah. This marks the first time masked heroes have been called to the witness stand here in well over wait, something's some kind of commotion. And so these characters, there's 5 of them who were mostly wearing these oversized trench coats, are now throwing different types of projectiles. Bob, would you like to describe the different types of projectiles being thrown? Because I think it's significant.
Well, sure. The 2 characters that you had previously mentioned, the woman and the other gentleman, she's throwing those bombs, right? And they appear to be some sort of smoke bombs that are causing people to cough, and maybe like a tear gas sort of concoction. And he's throwing, he just threw that ring that you had mentioned that was round and almost like a halo, and he's chucking it at people. And then the other folks,
well, he's not just chucking it, he threw it into a police officer's jugular.
Fair enough. Yeah. And then one of the guys is throwing, he looks like bowling 10 pins.
Yeah.
And then we got another guy, and he's throwing like balls some sort of round orbs at people.
Mhm.
And
About
then,
the size of billiard balls.
yeah, they're about the size of billiard balls. And then the last guy, he's swinging a pipe at
Mhm.
somebody, like a plumbing, like the pipe you'd find in a house or something.
Mhm.
So a bunch of different crazy dudes throwing stuff around.
And then Crossfire, who has the two police officers who are holding him on either side, get knocked out, says, "About time." And a guy runs up to him and puts on he's wearing a gas mask and he puts one on him. "Hiya, Crossy. The name's Knick-Knack. Take a few whiffs of air and let's move it." Nick's got Cross. I'll start the truck. And they start running to the van. "Hurry, boys. The fuse isn't that long." "This a cakewalk or what?" "We ain't away yet, Tenpin." "Whoa, oh, there's a fuzzball who ducked the gas attack. One move and I'll..." And the ringleader throws one of those razor sharp rings into his wrist, knocking the gun out of his hand, which makes it go off. And then the police car blows up. "Too bad he got out of the car." "Get in here, Peach Britches." "Shut it, Shorty." Peach Britches. So,
I think I got a new nickname for you, Rick.
oh, is it for me? I was thinking maybe a little later.
Oh,
You
the
might
Peach
be,
Britches? Yeah.
"Hey, Casey." You know,
Yeah,
"Hey, Peach
there.
Britches." See how she likes that.
Yeah.
I'll try it with Meg too.
Oh, yeah. Good luck. Let me know how that works out. Science experiment.
"I'm very pleased you got my message, oddball. You and your cohorts are remarkable. Ain't it the truth?" And then we cut to Hawkeye and his wife Mockingbird on a sky cycle flying over New York. Now, how would you describe? We all know what Hawkeye looks like, right? How would you describe Mockingbird?
Well, she has sort of a loose jumpsuit on with a puffy open at the wrists, white boots, and she's got a mask on that's very reminiscent, at least to me anyway, of like the original Black Widow mask.
Yeah.
That Natalia wore. So I don't know, and she's blonde, attractive woman.
"Hey, Mocky, what's with the crowd? I know we're the Bruce Springsteen and Julianne Phillips of the superhero set, but I didn't expect a bigger crowd." "Bob, who's Bruce Springsteen and Juliana Phillips?"
Well, I think we all know who Bruce Springsteen is, Rick, and Juliana. At this time, Juliana was his wife. I think they got married in 1985 and divorced a few years after this issue came out. But she had been a model, and for a while she was an actress, fairly successful. I think her most famous role was in Sisters, if you remember that TV show with the four sisters that lived in a house. So she was in several movies, not all that successful, but those two crazy kids just couldn't stay together.
"Take a closer squint, bird brain. Those ambulances, fire trucks, and squad cars mean trouble." "Oh, yeah. Guess I was too busy minding the road to notice." "What road?" And then they land, and then the police are there. "Greetings, officers. Trouble, huh?" "You said it, hero. Crossfire got away." "How'd he do that?" "He had a number of Confederates in the crowd. They threw gas bombs, hardballs, bricks, and who knows what else at us." "Bombs and balls? It figures. Crossfire had two assistants working for him back when we tussled. Oddball and Bombshell. Guess there wasn't as many charges to hang on them as there was on Cross. Wonder who their backup was." "No idea." "Bob, when's he referring to?"
Yeah, that was in that Hawkeye miniseries you talked about, issues 3 and 4. And if I recall, Crossfire had abducted Hawkeye and Mockingbird and locked them in this room that had some weird electromagnetic influence that caused them to fight each other. So he's got reason to be pissed. I mean, upset with Crossfire.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about Crossfire, he was introduced in 1979 in Marvel 2-in-1 number 52. And then he appeared in Hawkeye number 4, and now he's here. So this is only his third appearance. Now, according to what I'm reading here on CMRO, which is the Complete Marvel Reading Order, I've mentioned it before, he's been in 85 total appearances. This is appearance number 3.
Wow.
Interesting
That's a lot more
enough.
appearances than I would have expected for Crossfire.
Yeah. Interesting enough, Oddball has had a total of 17 appearances. This too is number 3. He was introduced in Hawkeye number 3. So he was in Hawkeye 3 and 4, and then now he's here. And then Bombshell, which is she was introduced also in Hawkeye 3 and 4, and this is also her third appearance. She's had a total of 23 appearances. So interesting enough. These are very, I guess, newer characters appearing in this particular issue. But, characters that are near and dear to Mark Gruenwald, obviously.
Yeah.
So Hawkeye asks the police officer, what'd they escape in? A Con Ed van. We found it abandoned about 20 blocks from here. A clean getaway. Thanks, officer. I'll be in touch. Just our luck. Now, if we don't find those creeps, we made this trip out east for nothing. You said it, sport. And he and Mockingbird fly away on their skycycle. At that moment, in Brooklyn Heights, a young woman watches as all of her worldly possessions are moved out of her apartment. And we see Steve and Bernie there watching the movers. Not just any young woman is Bernadette Rosenthal, for she has the unique distinction of being the girlfriend and confidant of Steve Rogers, the one and only Captain America. It is a distinction that Steve fears will soon pass. Steve, you don't have to help me supervise the move if you've got work to do. I can manage. I don't mind, Bernie. I'd rather be doing this. And then next panel, and basically it's an empty apartment. The movers I hired are very efficient. Didn't take them long at all. Bernie, I can't shake the feeling that this is like the end of an era. Oh, Steve. And then they embrace each other. Since you're going to be off at law school, I decided I might as well move too. I don't think I could get used to this building without you living below me. Where will you go? Back to the Avengers Mansion? That's where I'll store my... And then who's at the door interrupting, Bob?
It's Mrs. Kappelbaum.
Who's she?
She's the landlady, Rick. And a dear, sweet woman.
She really is. Oh, I'm sorry to... Come on in, Mrs. Kappelbaum. You got my note, I take it. I did. Does this mean you're going with Bernadette to her university? Afraid not, Mrs. K. The academic life is not for me. Oh, forgive a foolish old woman, but since you two moved in, you've been like family to me, and I was hoping that you two might... Oh, Mrs. Kappelbaum. You've been like family to us too, Mrs. K. Don't give up on the two of us yet. And they both kiss her on either side of her cheek. I promise I'll visit you whenever I'm back in town. Oh, my kinder. Bernie, I think we ruined our landlady's career as a matchmaker. And then just then, we've got an older gentleman walking through the door. How would you describe him, Bob?
Middle-aged guy. He's well-dressed. He's wearing a sport coat and a vest and a tie. He's sporting some glasses. He looks like a happy-go-lucky fellow, Rick.
Yeah. Sporting the dad bod.
Yeah, he's got the dad bod. He's rocking it.
Hi, baby doll. Just came by to see how you're doing. Your mother's waiting in the car. I've arranged to take a week off so we can help you get settled in Madison once we drive you there. Oh, hello, Stephen. Hi, Mr. Rosenthal. And soon... Well, I better run. I want to get home by the time the movers drop off all your cazaret at the house. Traffic in an hour will be murder. And Bernie gives him a kiss. See you soon, Daddy. And what does Kazare mean, Bob?
It's Yiddish for junk and stuff.
That's true. My, he was certainly in a good mood. Guess he's pretty proud of you going to law school. Could be, but I think he's just relieved that you and I won't be seeing as much of each other. No offense to you personally, Steve, but he never warmed up to the idea of my seeing a goy. What the heck's a goy, Bob?
It's Yiddish for a non-Jewish person, Rick.
Oh, okay. And you wonder why I never told my folks about our engagement. And then who just came in through the door? More people.
Oh my gosh. It's Josh and Mike Farrell.
Yeah, they're other people who live in an apartment. They became good friends of Steve and Bernie. All right, hold it right there, you scoundrels. What's this we hear, Mrs. K, about you two moving out on us? Sorry, Josh. Mike, I knocked on your door once, but a likely story. You spoil sports, and here we had the most together apartment building in all of 5 boroughs. Well, don't expect that you two are getting away without a party. Clear tonight of all plans. We're having a last hurrah farewell blowout for you two, and the whole Blam neighborhood is invited. And then Bernie thinks to herself, swell, a party to go on my last night with Steve. Well, maybe we'll make it easier. That's foreboding.
What does she mean?
I don't know. Bob, when you think to yourself, do you say the words swell?
Oh, I do. Yeah.
Do you really?
Different context. But but I really like that. You know, I don't want to jump here, but I really like that panel and how Bernie is drawn.
You do.
I do.
How would you describe it, Bob?
It's just, look, it's hard for me to describe. I find it very appealing. I like the hair. I like, her eyes are greenish. The lipstick is done, the teeth. I mean, it's a very elegant look for Bernie, I think. For somebody who's like very down to earth.
Yeah.
I think she's drawn very, very well here.
Yeah. But the expression on her face is kind of like I'm forcing a smile to be pleasant expression.
Right. I mean, you can see the difference between her smile and her eyes in this particular panel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, her mouth may be smiling, but her eyes are not. Do you get that a lot at home, Bob?
It's very familiar. Yeah.
Is that why you recognized it? What do they call that? The 8-mile stare or something?
1,000-mile stare.
1,000 miles stare. Oh, that's even longer.
I ran out of energy. I only went 8 miles. Yeah.
All right, so we cut to the next page, and it's a little over a half-page splash. How would you describe it, Bob?
It's really interesting, right? Because we've got a table in the forefront with Crossfire. And
it looks like a card table.
It looks like
a folding card table that's just kind of put there with some folding chairs.
Right. And all around the room are the death throws, right? We've got Oddball and Bombshell and Ringleader and Knick-Knack and Tenpin, and they're all tossing around their things in the air. It's a very circus-like atmosphere. You can almost hear that right in the background, right?
Now, by the way, I didn't mention this, but Ringleader, Knick-Knack, and Tenpin, this is their first appearance in comics.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably why this book is worth a few dollars.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, when Ringleader, Knick-Knack, and Tenpin show up in a Disney Plus series coming up soon, going up against in Hawkeye season 2, this book's gonna skyrocket, Bob.
Oh, it's gonna be up to $15-16 by then. Yeah.
Easily
for a week. Yeah,
easily.
Yeah.
All right, so they're tossing their various weapons around. We got hatchets, we got flaming bowling pins, we got the balls, we got the rings, we got hatchets, we got a shoe.
Yeah, and an egg.
Oh, never know.
Yeah.
And they're just throwing them, and they're throwing them across to each other. They're like, going back and forth. Gotta say, takes a lot of talent I don't have.
Right. No.
So Ringleader is sitting there with Crossfire, and Crossfire is still he's in a business suit, right? And what's interesting, this must have been like the look back then, because a few years earlier in the pages of the Teen Titans, Sam Slade, was his name Sam Slade? I know it's Slade, but he Deathstroke, the Terminator. He had white hair and wore an eye patch. And,
Right.
So interesting.
An expert marksman.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Just like Crossfire.
So they're sitting there with looks like their cups of coffee because there's steam coming up, and there's an open box of donuts. Now I
like
want
these
a
guys
donut
already. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Now then, Mr. Cross, let's get down to business. Namely, what you owe the death rows for professional services rendered. Sure. As you may recall, you have yet to pay Oddball and Bombshell for their assistance during your ill-fated affair with Hawkeye. At $1,000 a day for 5 days each, that comes to $10,000. Then our standard fee for a rescue operation like today's is $75,000. Tell me, how do you wish to pay us? One lump sum? Installments? Well, Ringleader, it's like this. At the moment, it is rather, shall we say, difficult for me to get access to my funds. I was hoping that, and then we cut to the next page, and Ringleader almost jumps across the table and grabs him by the throat, puts his finger in his face. Hold it right there, Cross. When you contacted Oddball, you said you had the money at hand. Were you lying then, or are you lying now? Oddball must have misinterpreted my message. I never... And then Oddball speaks up. Don't give me that, Crossy. I understood your message plain as day. You said you had the scratch. You probably just don't want to part with it so you can finance another of your hair-brand schemes to wipe out all the superheroes. Bombs and me told the rest of you about it. How he snagged Hawkeye and Mocking Bimbo for him. Cross threw them in some kind of isolation chamber. Flipped on his ultrasonic doohickey. And it caused the two of them to fight like dogs and cats. Is it dogs and cats? I always thought it was cats and dogs.
He's showing his preferences here.
Oh, okay. I got a few yucks watching them, but I doubt it wouldn't amount to much. My point is that anybody who could afford all that hardware that Crossy here had ought to be able to pay up. I had everything invested in my apparatus. It's all in police custody now. I can't even sell off the components. We have a way to find out if you're lying. And then they throw him into the center of the circle where everybody was tossing around their various weapons. And they start throwing things around him. Now then, Mr. Cross, keep very, very still. We want to show you a little trick we've been practicing. Objects in motion, everyone. Switch. And then you see all these weapons flying dangerously close to his face. Do you want to describe it, Bob?
Well, I mean, we see all kinds of things here. We see a hand grenade and a flaming 10-pin. We see a ball, an orb of some sort with spikes sticking out either end. And we see, of course, Ringleader has his rings. I mean, there's all sorts of weird objects zipping by Crossfire's head, including a hatchet, a meat cleaver, I should say.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's a meat cleaver. All right. Very good, Mr. Cross. You didn't flinch. Switch. If you had, I'm certain you'd be missing part of your head, or at the very least have a sharp object protruding from your skull. Switch. Listen, Ringleader, you can intimidate me all you want, but we don't need permission for that, Cross. Hey, how's it feel to be in the crossfire? Ha! Oh, I get it. In case you're interested, Mr. Cross, the longest we've kept up this passing pattern without a fumble is for 21 minutes. Switch. Now, it goes through each panel of these different characters, and they're all sweating, Bob.
I noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot of effort and work they're putting into this, and it must be over the course of some time.
Mm-hmm.
Something tells me Al Eye Patch ain't holding out on us. He really don't have the bread. Think we could turn him in for the reward money? I vote we all just hit him with a death objects all at once and chalk it up to experience. I doubt the cops will pay anywhere near what he's worth. Why don't we just see if any of his enemies will pay to get their hands on him? Yes, perhaps even Hawkeye and Mockingbird would be interested. But do we need him alive to sell him? Nah. Take it, Knick-Knack. Me take it? I thought, oh, I'm gonna miss. And he throws a tomato that lands on Crossfire's face. And it makes a sound, Bob.
Sploosh.
Phew. For a second there, I thought I smacked High Pockets with Audie's acid ball, not the tomato. Shucks. Anyone time that? It had to be over 21 minutes. Afraid not, brother. Sit down, everyone. Let's figure out just how we should go about ransoming our penurious double-crosser. What's penurious mean, Bob?
Somebody who doesn't pay their bills? Is it the
Hmm.
opposite of usurious?
No, that would be anti-usurious.
Are you serious?
So then, now we cut to the bottom 1/3 of this page, and it's a big splash. And what's going on in this panel, Bob?
It is like every party from the 1980s that I wasn't invited to. So we got a spread of food on the table. Somebody's got the record player playing, right? There's a little
it's a
dancing going
record
on,
player too.
Yeah. Bunch of the island and the kitchen's got some food on it. There's some folks there. A lot of folks just standing around talking, and there's probably 15 people here, something like that, having a good time.
Yeah. You recognize any of the people?
There's a few. There's obviously Josh Cooper and Mike Farrell's there, and Bernie's parents, and of course Steve's there, and I don't have my glasses on here. I don't think
That's Sam Wilson.
Where? I can't. Where's Sam?
He's in the bottom left corner.
Really?
Yeah.
His hair looks different.
She says, "You're the Sam Wilson, the one who ran for Congress."
Oh, you're right. There it is. There it is.
I mean, I'm not a rocket scientist. But...
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. And I think that's Billy Idol standing next to him in the leather jacket and the parachute pants.
Is it Billy Idol? It might be. Ice Cube.
Ice Cube, right? I think was that the 80s?
Yeah, I think so.
Ice Cube. It's not Ice Cube.
Oh, what's his name? Dun 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 dun.
Vanilla Ice.
Yeah. Vanilla Ice. All right, whatever. It was cold. Then you got Steve's old boss from the agency.
Oh, right.
Who's there talking
yeah,
with him, right?
Yeah, Mrs. Kappelbaum in the back.
Yeah. So then somebody says, hey, Omar, let's see if we can liven things up. And then Josh Cooper decides to try to do some breakdancing.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Right? Because it's the 80s and he's black.
And he's black, and there's only 2 black folks there, so it has to be one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And he even makes a joke of it. He says, "Sure, kid, all us inner city black guys are natural breakers. Watch." And he lands on his neck and he yells out in pain.
Yeah.
So Bernie grabs Steve. "Come on, Steve. Josh said that you're good at everything athletic." "Excuse me, Mrs. Rosenthal. Your youngest daughter wants me." Oh, that wasn't Bernie. That was Bernie's Jeannie.
Yeah.
What do you have in mind, Jeannie? And then just then, who walks in the door?
Well, if it isn't Hawkeye and Mockingbird
From
their civilian tire.
We never did talk about the West Coast Avengers. So the West Coast Avengers, and I meant to do this, that miniseries came out after the 4-issue Hawkeye miniseries. And so basically, Hawkeye left the Avengers to go lead a team of new Avengers over on the West Coast. And it had Hawkeye, Mockingbird, Iron Man, Tigra, Wonder Man. And those were the core to start the group.
There's Tigra, Wonder Man, Mockingbird, Hawkeye, and who is the other person?
Iron Man.
Oh, Iron Man, really? Okay.
Yeah. I guess Tony Stark had a operation out on the West Coast, so he went out there, and Hawkeye was the leader.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it was one of those things where he was always trying to prove himself,
right.
And he didn't like taking orders from Steve, so this was his way to kind of break away and do that.
Interesting.
And so they walk through the door in their civilian identities, of course. And then who's there? But Bernie walks up. Clint, Bobby, you're just in time. It's a going away party for Steve and me. Wow, an East Coast bash. And so then Steve's over there, and he comes up to talk to him. And Clint, Hawkeye, says, "Tell me I wasn't seeing what I thought I was seeing. Mr. Steve, old fogey Rogers, trying to breakdance? Outrageous." And Steve says to him, "So, how'd the trial go?" And then he does a flip and lands on his back and to go do some breakdancing. Bob, you ever seen Steve Rogers do breakdancing?
No, but I love that panel when Bobby and Clint come in the door, and Steve is on his back, and he's got his knees to his chest, and he's holding his knees, and it looks like Josh is standing over him, and another woman, and they're saying, "Hold tight, we'll spin."
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I'm totally reading this backwards. He was on the ground on his back, and he jumped up and lands on his feet in front of Clint and Bobby to talk to them. When I first read this, I was reading it backwards.
I wonder what you were like getting at. Yeah.
And then Jeannie's like, "Nice moves." So how'd the trial go? It didn't. You want to step outside? And so they're outside. He's explaining. So we wasted the rest of the day cruising around like dummies, looking for clues to their whereabouts. You check with Jan, see if the Avengers got in anything. Who's Jan?
That would be Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp.
Oh. Yep, nothing. Anyway, I was so careful not to make it sound like I wanted to haul in the whole East Coast team, so that I forgot to have her call the West Coasters to tell them their leader man's been detained. Come on upstairs, use my phone. And while we're at it, we might check in with my own private information network. Your hotline. Bob, describe the hotline.
Well, Rick, there is an attaché case.
Uh-huh.
And it's open. And we see in the inside of the top of the case, we see a screen of some sort, a display screen with to the right of it a speaker, and then there's a keyboard that folds up on the bottom part, as well as a modem. Mm-hmm. You remember the old kind of modems where you would take your hard plastic phone from from the dock there, and you would put it into the modem.
Yeah, and snap it in place.
Snap it into place, and that's what we see here.
Yeah. Next panel, we were seeing them on top of it. Now, this next panel, it doesn't look like if you were to close that, it would fit into the case. But anyway, this handy dandy briefcase terminal connects to my telephone, which connects to my master communications center elsewhere in Brooklyn,
otherwise known as AOL.
All the calls to the hotline are monitored by this nationwide network of amateur computer operators who call themselves the Stars and Stripes. They sort them out, extract and correlate all data, and send it back to me. It sounds like those ham radio operators who used to keep tabs on the Hulk for Hot Zot. and he's reacting to what's on the screen, and it's an old, going across the screen, like, just the
Yeah.
really bad font type.
Right.
And what does it say, Bob?
It says, "Want to play a game?"
Mm-hmm.
No, that was a different
Oh,
story.
okay.
Right. Yeah. Forward to Hawkeye. Have Crossfire. Willing to sell or trade. Come to abandon. Well, they couldn't fit railroad, so it just says R.R. Terminal 158th Street. Alone. Offer ends midnight tonight.
Act now.
Not now.
Oh, so the RR stands for railroad?
I think so, Rick.
Man, all this time when I was
Could
playing
have been an
Monopoly,
abandoned restroom, I guess.
all this time I've been playing Monopoly, and there was the cards that were not, property cards, and there were 4 of them, and it said RR, and I never could figure out what they stood for.
You thought you were investing in restrooms?
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. He said hot zot, Bob.
I'm going to use that one tomorrow. In fact, when I crawl into bed tonight, I'm going to be like, "Ooh, hot zot."
Is this before or after you call her
Peach britches?
Peach Bridges?
This before I get slapped.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, how the heck did they know enough to call your service? They must have read the newspaper account of us together yesterday during Armadillo's rampage and assumed I knew your whereabouts. Oh, yeah, that was the previous issue.
Was with a guest appearance by David Letterman, right?
Yeah, I guess. This next panel, the inking on it just looks completely different from all the other panels. It's very, very thick lines.
You're right. You're right. It's a little jarring, actually.
Yeah, well, it totally stands out. Well, I've only got a few hours before the offer ends at midnight. I better get hopping. You are aware this is probably a trap set by Crossfire. Sure. What of it? You want company? Well, the message said to come alone, but they can't think I'm that stupid. There was a time when I'd have spurned your help, waltzed in there alone just to prove how tough I am, but since becoming leader of the West Coast Avengers, I don't feel I have to prove myself anymore. And he goes and shakes his hand. I'd like it a lot if you tagged along, Steve. You got it, Clint. I just remembered. This is Bernie's last night in New York. She may never forgive me if I take off on her. I've been lousy at juggling my personal and professional life lately. But weighing your need of me against hers, blast. Get into costume, Clint. I'll be right back after I excuse myself. All right, so top of the page, we see Hawkeye on a sky cycle, and riding behind him is Captain America, and it's late in the evening, and they're going over, looks like the New York Harbor. And Hawkeye asks Steve, so what'd you tell Bernie as an excuse? The usual, how I have to do this, and I'll be back as soon as I can. She didn't take it too well, did she? As well as could be expected. Bobby was a bit more understanding when I told her that you were riding with me instead of her. After all, my sky cycle is only a 2-seater. Well, Bobby's in the business. Bernie's not. It sure has been refreshing to have a relationship with someone I couldn't talk shop to, but then there are also disadvantages. Anyway, Hawk, we can swap sob stories after this is over. How about telling me all about what you know about the Crossfire and his juggling associates? So Hawkeye fills them in, and then they arrive at the place. And how would you describe the building?
Well, I mean, it's an old gray concrete building with looks like bay doors that are all closed, wooden bay doors. It has signs that say "keep out," and there's some semicircle windows above each of the bay doors, but it looks largely abandoned.
Mm-hmm. This must be the 158th Street Terminal. Looks like the perfect setting for a trap, doesn't it? This is your case. How do you want to tackle it? I'm the one they expect, I should go first alone. You stay out here and I'll whistle if I need you. You better take this. And he hands him his shield. Your shield? But you never. For all we know, there will be 100 guns shooting at you the moment you step in. Your bow and arrows won't help you one bit. My shield might. He never lends anybody his shield. This is some kind of honor. Well, I can't very well shoot my bow with this blamed thing on my arm. Here, take my bow and a couple of arrows. I may need you to provide some cover. And then Hawkeye runs into the abandoned warehouse, which is pitch black. And he's thinking to himself, this underground train yard hasn't been used in years, if memory serves. With 50-foot ceilings and thousands of square feet of floor space, Crossfire could have just about anything set up in here. So far, though, I don't see a sign of anything weird. Matter of fact, I can't see a thing. Think I'll give myself a little advantage. Turn up the high-tech hearing aid I've had to wear ever since my first run-in with Crossfire to the max. Aha. I hear muffled breathing. Can't tell how many. And then a light turns on, and there's a figure sitting in a chair tied to it on the train tracks. Spotlight came on. A figure bound to a chair. Who? So he stands there and he lifts his shield into the air. Okay, I appreciate melodrama as much as anybody. Now, how about showing yourself so we could talk turkey? But Bob, there's something a little strange about this picture of Hawkeye holding the shield up in the air. Do you know what it is?
I don't, Rick. I don't know what you're getting at.
So pretend we're doing the old highlights magazine, and you're going to look at the pictures. What's different about this picture versus that picture? So look at the panel before. Look at this one. Look at the next panel. What is missing?
All right, you got me, Rick.
His quiver of arrows.
You mean in that panel with him holding the shield?
Yeah, where's the quiver of arrows?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's just, well, it could be that it's just the angle that you just can't see it. But, or maybe they just forgot to draw it.
I think it's the latter, because look at the band that would be holding his quiver. You know, it goes across his torso.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the quiver is at an angle in the other ones, right?
Yeah.
So it should be seen here, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the strap is there.
Right.
Yeah. So
quiver is not. All right.
Or maybe they just inked over it.
I think, yeah, it could be. There's a lot of black around it.
There's a lot of black background. Yeah.
Nice shield you got there, Hawks. Swap it for your bow, did you? I know that voice. Oddball, huh? And here I was worried I was up against somebody tough. You gonna show yourself, or are you afraid I'm gonna clobber you again? And then we cut to Ringleader, who's up on a scaffolding, and he's looking down on Captain America, who is coming in through a window or a bay door or something. Hawkeye's backup just entered. Looks like Captain America. Await my signal. Whoever set this up was pretty thorough. All other entrances were boarded up except for this. So you got to quit playing hide and seek and tell me where you want for cross? I don't have all night. I think I see some scaffolding that's not part of the natural decor, but I can't quite make out what's on it. And then Steve's there with the bow and arrows. It probably won't take them long to realize Hawk's not alone. I better seize the element of surprise while I can. These flare arrows ought to shed some light on the situation. And then what happens there, Bob?
He like fires off 3 in quick succession. Twing!
And he does.
Yeah.
And he lights up at the bottom. Again, another big splash page. This is like a half-page splash. And what do we see when Cap lights it up with the flare arrows.
Well, they're all of the death throws are on scaffolding around the edges, the perimeter of this building, and there's a huge net that has been hoisted up across the roof, and it looks like they're getting ready to drop it.
In fact, that's what the ringleader commands. Drop it. What in the... Hawk, run towards me quickly. And Tenpin pushes a lever down that I guess is going to drop the big net. All right, the great Captain America himself. This is going to be a better fight than I thought. Well, he actually sounds excited about the opportunity.
Yeah, careful what you wish for.
And Hawkeye's running with Cap's shield. Cap, above you. And then he's just on the, almost makes it out from underneath the net, but half the net gets the net gets his lower half of the body. But there is a large cannonball sized ball, they're weighting these things down that comes, that almost smacks Hawkeye, but he puts his shield up to deflect himself. And then they start going, throwing things at Cap, but Cap's racing towards Hawkeye, who's trapped halfway underneath the net. Razor sharp rings being thrown at me. Have to remember I don't have my shield to deflect them. This net weighs a ton. It must be made out of steel cables. You okay? Your shield saved me from getting bonked by a lead ball. And then we hear the ringleader. You are surrounded and outnumbered. Each of us is highly proficient at a different deadly projectile. Throw down your weapons at once, or you won't know what hit you. And Bombshell thinks to herself, too bad Mockingbird isn't here. I have a score to settle with her. And so, indeed, Steve and Clint are surrounded by the five of them, and they're back to back. You know something, Cap? Ringleader's right. We're outnumbered and surrounded. Only one thing to do. Throw down our weapons. And they do. They throw down their shield and the bow. And dive for the right ones. And they do. They go to collect their weapons that they're used to using. Open fire. And they start throwing things at them, at the two of them. And Cap catches a hatchet. He knocks things away with his shield. And then Hawkeye shoots an arrow at Bombshell, knocks her out. Bombshell's down, 4 to go. Who looks like the second most deadly? Well, that's interesting. He referred to Bombshell. He picked Bombshell out of all of them as being the most deadly. Why do you think?
Well, I mean, she did have a hand grenade in each hand, Rick.
That's true.
You gotta wonder what happened to those hand grenades when she got knocked out. So
the name's Tenpin, Cappy. That's one word, no hyphen. Wouldn't want you to misspell it in your memoirs. Tenpin, eh? Guess I'll have to bowl you over then. Oh yeah. Cap made a funny. And he does. He knocks him down with his shield, and the flaming Tenpin goes flying. And then Oddball, he's starting to cock his arm to throw some projectiles at Hawkeye. I thought you learned last time I could throw balls faster than you can shoot arrows, Hawk Noose. Or Hawk Nose. There's only one O. With my super adhesive all over your hands, the only thing you'll be able to throw is a fit. Ah, that's punny. Hawk doesn't see the midget about to throw a knife at him. I'll have to. And he does. He tosses his shield at the same time the knife's coming at Hawkeye and knocks it. But the shield then goes the way towards Ringleader. A juggler must be good at catching as he is at throwing. The shield's mine now. I'd hoped that wouldn't happen. And then Knick-Knack comes over, and he dives, catches Hawkeye's arrow. Ringleader ain't the only good catch around here. He caught my arrow. I didn't think anyone other than Quicksilver could do that. And then the guy throws it back at him. Hey, he got my bow. Blast, my spare is out on my sky cycle. Here, Archer, I'll let you practice catching too. Here's a chainsaw. And then Ringleader teases Cap. Want your shield, Avenger? Come and get it. Knick-Knack, catch. He's playing keep away. Your razor rings are only deadly if they touch me, pal. And then Hawkeye runs over to try to get the shield back. But as he's running up on Knick-Knack, Knick-Knack uses it and does an uppercut. Uppercut! You want this, bow legs? That'd be bow legs, right?
Yeah.
I read it as bow legs. Huh. Do you think Hawkeye's bow-legged?
It doesn't appear that way.
No? Maybe all that time on the sky cycle, though.
They could do that to you.
So I got a funny story.
All right.
So, my first wedding, because I got married back when I was a kid. I was like 25. And I'm working at a restaurant. I'm like a manager of a restaurant at the time. And go away on my honeymoon. And my new bride and I decide we're going to go jet skiing.
Mm-hmm.
This is towards the end of the trip. We have never been jet skiing before.
Uh-huh.
And it was choppy. And we were out there for a few hours.
Yeah.
So you ever have that happen? Like,
Yeah.
you're using muscles you haven't used before,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so you're sore. And I come back and my boss, who's a woman, and she asks me, so how was the honeymoon? And I'm like, oh, it was a great time. We had a really good time. I'm a little saddle sore though. She's like, I don't want to know. TMI.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. All right. So the next panel, Hawkeye's knocked down and he's thinking, oh man, I think I chipped a tooth. And Knick-Knack's running. He's got a big lead in front of Cap and he's like, gotta make it to the door. Ambush him as he comes out. And Cap thinks to himself, only the midget is left standing and he's got my shield.
Cap needs some sensitivity training, I think.
This is the second time he's referred to him as a midget.
Yes, yeah.
But come on. Back
yeah.
in 1986.
It was the 80s, right? Yeah.
That was what you said.
That's right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
I mean, what term is the PC one right now? Is it little people?
I guess it's little person, but I mean, it's obvious. He doesn't really have to say anything. You just say that guy. The guy they just showed he's got the shield. So
I did notice when I asked you to describe in the very beginning of the comic, all the characters that were doing things, you refused to mention the fact that Knick-Knack was a little person. You left that out, which visually I think adds to the story. And there's nothing wrong with describing.
I'm going to say height challenged, a short individual.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, no, wait a minute. I am vertically challenged. but I'm not a midget. There are two different.
I've
type of
never
things.
met you in person, Rick. I wouldn't know.
I know. We are going to meet in person in January, though.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
You know why? Let me give you. I'm going to tell you a background. My son, he really knows how to get at me. So if I'm telling a story, and this has happened so many times that now I'm gun shy. So I'll be like saying, "Oh yeah," and so in the story, there's this dude, and then there's this black guy, and my son will go, "What are you doing? That's racist," and he'll call me out on it every single time. And he's doing it just to mess with me because he's not like being super. He's not being serious. He's just like, anytime I'm like, "Oh yeah, there was just like this Jewish guy." He's like, "Why is that relevant?"
Because it's relevant.
And he gets me every single time.
Mm-hmm.
So
he knows how to push your buttons.
He knows how to push my buttons. So yeah. So now I'm like gun shy about it.
Yeah. Because we are describing characters visually to people who are listening.
Right.
So we have to, paint the full picture here.
Yeah.
Right. I know, just as your favorite thing to do is talk about the ladies in the skin tight costumes.
Right. Yeah.
But that is a service that you provide to our listeners.
As much as it pains me. Yes.
Exactly.
You're right.
Yes. So then Cap's running, and all of a sudden coming out of the doorway, you can't see who's throwing it, but remember, Nick Nack said he was going to give a dog a bone. Oh, I'm sorry. Nick Nack said he was going to
paddywhack.
Right.
Paddywhack Cap.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
He said he was going to ambush him, but so there's this shield being thrown sideways out of this doorway, and Cap's like, "What? That's the lamest attack I ever saw." And he catches it, and who threw it?
Oh my gosh, it's Mockingbird.
Hiya,
yeah.
Cap. Did you just try to do the song?
What? No. Yeah.
If I knew the song, I would do it with you right now. And our listeners would be like, "Holy crap, you put that song in my head."
I only know the Dumb and Dumber version. So yeah.
Hiya, Cap. Sorry the cab ride here took so long. Glad you left me something to do. And then Cap just helps Hawkeye up. You okay, pal? My pride smarts more than anything, Cap. Sucker punched by a midget. Sheesh. Wow. Now Hawkeye's in on it. The two of us make a great team. These jugglers were tricky customers. I'd still like to know what this was all about. Okay, oddball, talk unless you want more sticky stuff dumped on you. No more of that junk, Hawk. I think I'm allergic to it. And then he sneezes. I'll talk. It doesn't matter now. When Crossfire crossed us, we decided to use him as bait to nab you. We probably couldn't get more than 10,000 selling him, but we could probably get 1 million from the Avengers to have you back in one piece. And then Hawkeye looks at Cap and says, I'm worth 1 million to you. Geez, I'm flattered. You bind up these perpetrators. Mockingbird and I will try to get Crossfire out from under the steel net. Let's make haste. I've got a party to get back to. Epilogue, 2:15 a.m. Bob's been asleep for 7 hours now. At a certain building in Brooklyn Heights. And you see Steve in civilian identity going down the stairs. Because you know why he's going down the stairs, Bob?
Because he goes rooftop to rooftop.
Exactly. That wasn't too bad. Only took 3 hours. I don't hear any music or partying. Could the bash have broken up already? And he opens up the door to Bernie's apartment. Bernie? Party's not only over. The place has been tidied and everyone's gone home. I feel rotten. And then what does he see, Bob?
It appears to be a Dear Steve letter taped to the wall.
It is. And he goes and he sees the letter, which is done in very neat cursive handwriting. Dear Steve, I've never been very good at goodbyes. It's probably good I don't have to say this in person. The party broke up at 1. I'm spending the night at my parents'. Have to leave early in the morning. I'll write you when I get settled. I hope when I graduate, we still feel the same for each other. There are no guarantees in life, though. Good luck on your mission. Love, Bernie. And he just sits there on the floor, looking crushed. And he says, Bernie. And then there's a large picture of her face behind him in a very artistic way, as that's what's on his mind.
Well, damn.
Yeah. He got a Dear Steve letter.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what'd you
Wow.
think? What'd you think of this particular issue?
You know, it was a fun issue, Rick. It's a fun story. I mean, it's a wacky group of odd characters.
You almost said oddballs.
I almost did an odd group of oddballs, including an oddball. Yeah, I don't feel good about how this wrapped up with Bernie. I feel like, what was Steve thinking? That was a crappy thing to do on their last night, her last night in town. That doesn't sit well with me. But overall, I mean, it was a fun story, right? And it was good to see. It's nice seeing Clint and Steve working together in a positive way. And that's great, So all in all, I think it's a fun story. Definitely worth reading.
I thought it was an okay story.
Yeah.
I thought it was it was an interesting plot. I think this was a way for Mark Gruenwald to bring back some characters that he liked. He was looking for something that he wanted to do to try to, spice things up, change things. I think, wasn't it Mark Gruenwald who had said that, his goal was to, introduce new villains into Cap's mythos. And I think maybe this was a way to perhaps do that. I thought it was an okay issue. It was one of those things where, I don't think I've read it since I read it back in 1986.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a serviceable comic story.
Exactly.
It's the cover, that really sells it. It's
of course,
great cover, and I'm sure a lot of folks picked it up, and said, this is a great cover. Got to have this, right?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's a wacky group of villains, and yeah, but it's a sad story too, right?
It's true.
It's a sad story. And as you know, because we covered it in another episode, it's not the only Dear Steve letter that Steve has ever gotten.
That's true.
So, yeah. And obviously this one predates the other one, but, yeah, I don't know. Just when I'm reading it, I'm thinking to myself, Steve, what are you doing? Right? Clint can go with Mockingbird, spend the last night, or not go at all. I mean, it's not that important of a mission.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I did get to see him breakdance. So
yeah, there you go. There was the highlight. I was just about to bring that up. Yeah, the other Dear John letter that you're talking about, that came from what was his name? Portia something.
Who?
The attorney.
Connie Ferrari.
Portia Ferrari. Yeah, Firebird. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Connie Ferrari. Yeah, that came in that. We actually covered it. It was in Captain America Volume 3, number 44, where it was Cap took on the Taskmaster, and Connie wrote him a Dear John letter that, it ended with that too. And that comic came out in 2001. So, here it is 15 years later, or he's getting another Dear John letter from Connie. Cap just can't catch a break.
I know he's, I guess, love really hasn't been his thing. He has, and as I mean, we've discussed this. There's the Steve Rogers and there's the Captain America, and, he has subsumed himself in Captain America. That is who he is. And that doesn't leave a lot of room for relationships.
It's true. Going back to the party, it was nice that, to see all those characters back together, right? All the previous characters that, even if it was just for one panel, you got to see previous friends, previous neighbors, previous people that he worked with that was like, who's missing though? Jack Monroe.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jack wasn't.
Yeah.
There.
Jack quit being Cap's partner in issue 309. And then so that's why he wasn't there. He comes back in issue 324. So that's there's a little gap there. It was interesting for Nomad, for Jack Monroe. There's a gap between issues 309 and 324 where he just doesn't appear. And then he I don't know. I just kind of went down this rabbit hole looking up stuff about like, where's Nomad? And I just kind of look into this and everything. Because we do read about him during the whole Road to the Captain series, right? And he's in there and he's a bit of a jerk. And then he's appeared in a bunch of annuals, but he got his own 4-issue miniseries in 1990, and then he got his own ongoing series in 1992. But yeah, he was missing from there.
Yeah.
All right, Bob, you go first. Yeah. What was your favorite panel?
My favorite panel. Well, I think it has to be Cap breakdancing, Rick. I'm sorry, just him on his back with Bernie's younger sister and Josh getting getting ready to spin him. I think was
okay. I thought maybe it was a different issue. Cap was on his back with Bernie's sister.
Yeah, I love that because I don't know if that situation has ever occurred in your life, but I know it has in mine.
With my girlfriend's younger sister? Hell no.
No. Where you've been like on your back breakdancing and like somebody has to come up and spin you. But I remember that from my college days, like spin me, I'm breakdancing. So that like hits home, and I'm sure maybe, a lot of folks who grew up in the 80s certainly remember breakdancing is a craze.
And what I remember doing something similar to that was Animal House.
The Worm.
Yes. Getting on the floor.
That too. Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I did that because, do the song Shout.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So in my first wedding, I did that, and me and my buddies, we all got on the floor and did that.
Yeah.
And then guess what? When I got married a year ago, did it again with my same buddy.
Did you really?
I did. Totally did. You got to wait till the very end of the night when people had enough alcohol in them.
That's right. And you don't mind getting sweaty and covered with lint. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
All right. That's a good favorite panel.
Yeah. Yeah. And yourself, Rick? What's your favorite panel?
Oh, I'm going to go with page 17, second panel. And you know me, I'm a sucker for seeing characters do multiple actions in the same panel.
Is this the twang?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Seeing that's my favorite panel. Seeing Captain America without his shield. And instead he's got Hawkeye's bow and he's shooting 3 arrows, bing, 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 all in the same panel. That's cool. I like it. That was my favorite.
All right. And what about a t-shirt?
I'm gonna have to go with the cover.
Ah, good choice.
I think the cover totally goes on a t-shirt for me with the word balloon. Like I want
yeah.
I want the word balloon. I want everything. It's a fun cover.
All right, that's good. That's good. I guess that leaves me with I can either do Bernie's face, but no, I think I'm going to go with page 19 with Cap and Hawkeye fighting back to back, and there's all kinds of things being thrown at them, and Cap's catching the meat cleaver, and Hawkeye's firing off arrows, and Cap's got a shield over his head, and there's a flaming 10 pin and a hand grenade bouncing off it. I'm going to go with that. I like it's got, the clang and the kradoom and the brock and the twang and all kinds of noise effects. I'm going to keep those two. Yeah, I'm going to go with that.
I got to tell you, when I hear the sound effect of clang, I think of a Saturday Night Live skit with the Sweeney sisters. Do you remember the Sweeney sister characters?
Was that the one? And one of them had small hands?
No. This was the one. They were like lounge.
Oh, right.
Singers.
Okay.
The two girls. They would just go back and forth.
Yeah.
And one of the bits they did was clang, 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 went the trolley.
Right.
So every time I see or hear the thing clang, I'm like, I totally go back to that skit.
Oh, that's a good one.
All right, Bob, what is your time capsule?
Well, Rick, this may be an obvious one, but I am going to go with page 12, that party scene with Mike Farrell talking to someone by the front door. And he says, having firemen carry beepers is a good idea, Renee. And I thought to myself, beepers. That's right there is emblematic of this time period. And I'm not sure. Does anybody carry beepers anymore, Rick? I guess some people still do. Or
I would say that was a really big thing for firemen and drug dealers.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Here's the funny thing. When back in the mid 90s, and I was just out of college, and I was selling cars.
Okay.
Cars.
Yeah.
I moved into management, and they gave me a beeper.
in case you got a Rick, you got to get down here. We got a car to sell
or something. I was traveling between dealerships, and I had a beeper, and I would get like these little.
You do a great beeper.
Right. And I would get that.
You're like Michael Winslow. You're like the guy from Police Academy.
Anyway, yeah. So, all right, that's a good one for your capsule.
How about yourself?
Well, I was gonna do breakdancing, but you took that. I can't take that because you took that. Right. So instead, I'm going to go with also on page 13, which was, besides the breakdancing on page 13, there was also Cap's attaché case with the modem.
The modem.
That's dating this comic.
Can you hear it in your head? Like... Well, now I don't have to hear it in my head.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember those days.
Yeah.
Dialing up my AOL account. Yeah. I had to write someone the other day, and no kidding, the email address was AOL.com.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I paused for a second. I said, this can't be legit. But sure enough, there's still AOL.com email accounts out there.
I'm sure. Well, listen, I still have the same email address for the last 20 years.
Well, I do.
My personal email.
I guess email goes. I thought AOL went out of business or something. I didn't know they still had servers.
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think AOL was bought by Yahoo.
Probably.
But so I think you could still I have a Bell South email address.
Oh yeah, okay.
And Bell South was bought by Yahoo.
Yeah, okay. I guess now that I think about it, I wouldn't mind having an AOL.com email address just for it's like a vintage thing,
Uh-huh. Oh, totally.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be kind of cool, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Way to
I'm
get the
look-
chicks.
I'm looking into that. Put that on a
Mhm.
business card.
Yeah, the chicks be lining up.
Oh, right.
And I think I've told you this before, but back when I had my comic book store, people would come in. But this is just a trip down Rick's previous job
really is.
relay, right? I mean,
Really,
like,
yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, back when I had my comic book store,
When I was a male gigolo,
oh,
yeah.
that was the mid '80s, but
mid '80s, right?
Anyway, we used to collect people's email address to add them to our email newsletter. And this guy had the best email address. And it was an AOL. Okay. And I said, "What's your email address?" He goes, "I forget, but it's at AOL.com." He literally had the email address. "I forget, but it's."
That's awesome.
At AOL.com.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's
right?
a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now don't go adding him to any spam lists or whatever.
No. Yeah.
No.
So you still have your old email address?
I do. I still use it. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's such a pain in the ass to change things.
It is.
You know,
I have one that you don't know. It's
really?
It's one that goes way back. I generally use the one that I got when I was a student at Fielding. Now that's the one that you know.
Wait a minute, you were a student there? I thought that's maybe like where you teach now.
No, that's where I went through my PhD program at Fielding. I teach it,
and they let you still keep that email.
Yeah,
address?
I'm an alumni, so alumni have email addresses. We just keep our email addresses.
That's weird.
So I also have one for the university where I work, obviously my work one, but I have like the one that I have used for, well, since I was a second lieutenant, for crying out loud. And I picked the name.
Mm-hmm.
It's Bobby Llama.
Nice.
Because at that time of my life, I was doing these trips to Tibet.
Uh-huh.
And one of my friends at work started calling me the Bobby Llama. And so I took that as my email address.
That's cool.
I still have that one. I don't really use it for much of anything.
Uh-huh.
Mostly because there's like 50,000 unread emails in there. So
oh, I know. Yeah.
But that's like my eBay account and some other things are still mapped there.
So if I go into my Bell South account right now, which is the one I use all the time, and I check regularly every single day, in my inbox right now, unread, 1.4 thousand.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's not counting the ones that automatically go into certain folders.
Yeah.
Like I got one that goes into this folder and it's got 1.5 thousand by itself.
It's like a bunch of emails. Rick, we've been trying to contact you on your beeper.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm just going through these folders. Google alerts, 2.5 thousand. Yikes. Anyway,
Wow.
this is fantastic, entertaining information. So let's just get to next episode. So we figured with J. Michael Straczynski coming up, doing the new Captain America series, we should cover a J. Michael Straczynski Captain America story. And I know you're thinking, what? No, he didn't do well. He was the writer on a nice long run of Amazing Spider-Man. And back in 2006, when Civil War was going on, there was an issue where Captain America was a major guest star. And he talked with one Peter Parker, and he gave a certain speech that a lot of people think is one of the best speeches Cap ever gave. That is in Amazing Spider-Man 537. We're going to cover that one panel by panel next episode.
I'm looking forward to that one. I know it's whenever that panel comes up in the group, it's always a point of discussion and conversation. And so it's an important one for us to cover.
Absolutely. So that'll be fun. We'll cover that next episode and take a trip to 2006. Okay, Bob. Got to say, it's been fun wrapping Cap with you.
It has. I can't wait till next week, Rick.
All right. Well, I'm Rick Verbanis. He's Bob Lucius, and you have been listening to another episode of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. You bind up these perpetrators. Perpetrators? They're not perpetrators.
That's
You
my
bind
son.